Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. Carasoft Technology would like to welcome you to our ServiceNow Public Sector Tech Talk, From Automation to Autonomy, Rise of Agentic AI. Before we get started, I would like to quickly go over a few housekeeping items. Please note that all lines have been muted to reduce any kind of background noise during the presentation. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, please use the Q&A feature on the bottom of your screen, and we will do our best to answer by the end of the presentation or follow up with you offline. This webinar is being recorded and a copy will be emailed to you. Just to tell you a little bit about Carasoft, we are a trusted government IT solutions provider supporting public sector organizations across federal, state, and local government agencies, including education and healthcare markets. At this time, I'd like to hand the floor over to our speakers. The floor is all yours.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody, and good day. Whenever you're viewing this, I'd just like to let you guys know that there'll be a couple of poll questions coming up your way, so feel free to answer that. Just want to introduce myself. First of all, I want to thank Carasoft for giving me and giving us the opportunity to present here. Quick introduction about myself. My full name is Arun Kumar Iyer, but Arun is good for short. I am a field CTO and a principal executive enterprise architect with ServiceNow. I basically help customers maximize the value of the platform. That's in short. So in my role here, what we're trying to do is trying to bring us into the evolution from automation to autonomy and what we hear about in terms of agentic AI. I've been in the ServiceNow, the company 4 years, but in the ecosystem for more than 13, and I've played various different roles as a customer, as a partner, etc. I will now let my colleague, Chris Steinke, introduce himself. Go ahead, Chris.
Hi, thanks. Hi, folks. This is Chris Steinke. I'll come on video for a second. How are you all doing? You can see I'm here, yes, in the garage. I live down in Naples, Florida, but I do support the federal team. And the area I work in is what we call our intelligent automation products. And so it's things like platform analytics and machine learning and predictive intelligence, and now, of course, agentic and Gen AI. But the idea, the premise is that we want to help you get value from the things you already have in your instance. So I'm going to be joining today. If you get a chance, I've got a number of videos that I posted out on the community showing different agentic use case and builds. So definitely check those out. Otherwise, I will turn it back over to Arun, and I'll be back a little later to demo some AI agents for you.
Thank you, Chris. And a quick kind of a background, just in a sidebar interest. Chris and I go back a long way. We have come through different paths into ServiceNow, and we probably first met each other more than 10 years ago. So I'm really glad to have Chris here on board. And as you can see on the screen here, we just did a quick poll to see where people are in their journey, regarding AI, and which is why we wanted to kind of start at a level that we can bring everybody up into a baseline and then talk about agentic AI. So thank you for responding on the poll. Thank you, Sarah, for facilitating that. And as we go forward, this one slide, I have to put it here to make our legal team happy. So just a safe harbor saying that we might make some statements and forward-looking statements. So do not base any of your purchasing decisions based on what you see or hear here today. Having said that, a quick agenda. We're going to start from automation and then go into agentic AI. But along the way, we'll kind of throw around some definitions, why use AI, the building blocks, and what are the risks of using it, and then really talk about AI agents, the real meat of our current presentation today, and take you through a demonstration of how the platform supports some of that. All right, along the way, please feel free to ask questions in the Q&A, and we are going to set aside some time later, but we will address your questions even if not during the session at a later date as a follow-up. All right, so let's start at the very beginning. We said automation, but I actually went a little before that, saying, let's talk about digitization and automation. So table stakes. We have to have digitization because that's what is going to facilitate our use of the data that we capture. So you refer to converting all your analog data into digital, whether it's scanning, whether it's capturing through sensors, various different mechanisms and channels, so that we can get that into a a repository, a storage, and use automation, for efficiency, for minimizing human intervention, and reducing the errors that we might otherwise introduce if we are not automated and if there is too much human intervention. So this is kind of the foundation. That's where we want to start. But we hear so many terms in the AI space. So I said, let's start looking at some of them, and some of them which are more germane to what we're going to be using towards AI agents later in this presentation. So we started looking at digitization, which means we started collecting data. What that meant is that we could now use that data to learn about our environment, to learn about our processes, to learn about our systems, our environments. So what did we do there? We said, let's use machine learning. And machine learning allowed us to look at data and look at similarity, look at classification, look at clustering of similar records, data, whatever is the domain that we were inspecting, and even regression. So that's what machine learning allowed us to do. But then we went into deep learning. We started using more neural networks and using iteration to self-correct and to improve the prediction abilities. So machine learning, deep learning, but that was still in the language of the machines. So let's say we said, let's kind of introduce natural language processing, which means we allow the humans to interact with the data, but not in a programmatic way, not in a very esoteric, few people know how to do that way, but generally anybody who can speak to the interface and listen from the interface or interact, whether it's text or speech, but in a natural language. So what we started doing is we started combining computational linguistics. We started looking at tokens. We started looking at speech to text, text to speech, all of these things where you say tokenization and machine and linguistics, so that we could apply that in various walks of our interactions with the underlying data that we were using to respond to the user. Then we said, let's go look at large language models. What are large language models? They're again deep learning algorithms and transformer models that take a humongous amount of data and they use that to analyze and predict. So you can use that to summarize, to translate, and generate content. But in and of itself, the model doesn't generate unless it is prompted. And that's where we started getting into generative AI. So generative AI is pre-trained. And by the way, LLMs, generative AI, they are all have a cutoff date because they're learning. They're all supervised learning, and they are going to create and generate things that did not exist. So it's not like just going into Google and doing a search and getting a list of results, because that's all indexed data and artifacts that are available, to the Google crawlers, and that's what the search engine is bringing back. Now we're getting into more of a prompt and response. So that's where the whole prompt engineering came, where we started saying, let's contextually talk to this interface. And something like ChatGPT, we say GPT, it's like generative pre-trained transformer. So you have to look at, one part is generation, one part is pre-trained, which means it was trained before you started using it. And transformer is taking your prompts and transforming it into responses based on the underlying large language model that it was using. That's fine. So up to this point, nothing is happening autonomously. What that means is it is not making decisions for you. All it is doing is it's taking your prompt and responding to the prompt based on the contextual guardrails that you've provided it in a format that you want, and it is generating results. Agentic AI or AI agents, when you start using that, they can autonomously make decisions, take actions, and learn to achieve specific goals. So they act with a certain degree of independence, right? So that's where, these definitions are just helping us, our language, for a baseline of understanding and interactions, right? So let's then go into the next part of it, is saying, why do we use AI? Or are we already using it? And the simple answer is yes, we are already using it. We have been using it for accessibility, whether it's closed captions or text to speech, or even some of you might be seeing the transcription of this current presentation, which was not pre-loaded anywhere. It's doing it dynamically. And that has helped people with accessibility issues. Problem solving in terms of medicine. If you start looking at, let's say you go get an X-ray or an MRI, and the radiologist now has access to the actual recording of the images, but he or she is now throwing it up in terms of analysis against a huge data set of so many other images, which it might be time consuming, might not be humanly possible if you were to do it, one image at a time or a set of images at a time, and you're doing it across a huge scale. And you're getting to see the image that you're comparing with things that you may never have seen as a radiologist, but now you're getting access to that kind of data. So you're getting those kind of applications of the AI, and you're able to still make a decision assisted by what AI brings back to you. Climate modeling is the other big example. Efficiency and automation, because you're able to do things at scale, now you're able to do things more efficiently, and you don't have to do manual drudgery work because it's taking over and doing it. Personalization, we have all seen this thing, and you probably, if you've gone to Amazon, you'll see some of the results of personalization, as well as summarization of information. If you go to review section, you see the customer reviews have already been summarized, and you don't have to go click on multiple different reviews to find out what somebody said about a certain product, right? Decision support, again, this has been machine learning and analytics, where companies have been using it for sales analysis, for product trends, various such things. And the part of the 24/7 availability is where we look at it and say, oh, we don't really need to have a person sitting at a desk waiting for to serve customers on a customer support desk, because now our virtual agent, facilitated by natural language processing, is almost going to behave like an individual and respond to some standard queries based on the prompts or the questions that a end user might ask, right? So all of these lead to kind of cost savings and the enhanced creativity part of it. This is unique. You've already seen so many images being generated, whether it's DALL-E or other kind of services that are providing you images, plus the Copilot in Microsoft Teams or the Microsoft set of products. You started seeing the pervasive nature of how this is helping you do things. In fact, I have one of my friends had a milestone birthday, and I said, I need to kind of do the roast. So what am I going to do? So I put a lot of the inputs from a group of friends and try to generate that roast from within that. So talk about creativity. Although somebody said the inflection and tone was not there, which is why I had to deliver it. So you're looking at automating, augmenting, extending, and creating. All right. So let's kind of get to what are some of the building blocks of getting to this state of agentic AI. One of the main things that we want to look at, and we'll talk a little more about, is the data quality and the data quantity. Because when you're wanting to learn, the sample size has to be sufficient. And you also need to have quality data, because data, you probably have heard so many of these statements here being said in the news and in different solutions, is that your solution or your AI is only as good as your data. So the data preparation and cleaning and the accessibility of that data, and can it be shared? All of those things are really one of the primary building blocks of approaching this solution. Robust algorithms and models, I'm going to, more than the effective algorithm, I'm going to kind of bring your attention to the explainability and interpretability. So one of the fears people have about using AI is that, oh, I don't know what the AI is doing. So how do you get over that? One of the main things you can do to get over that is to have an explainability. When you say explainability, what you're talking about is if the AI, as it is solving, is able to tell you what it is doing, then that part of it, the black box has been opened and it's demystified. So that's the one of the key things about the algorithms, and the fact that it is explainable and it is interpretable, right? And we are also talking about minimizing the bias that the algorithms may have, the data may have. So that's where the ethical considerations and responsible AI comes in, where you need to have the accuracy, the privacy and data protection, the fairness and inclusion, all of this, providing a certain level of accountability and transparency. All right, so what are the risks of using AI, right? So we have security vulnerabilities. So we said data is important. If data is important and somebody poisons that data, then our AI is going to work on data that is not of good quality, that has been, uh, that has been poisoned by introducing things that take the algorithms one way or the other, and you start getting hallucinations. Hallucinations are results that are not accurate, but are presented to you like they are the accurate results, right? So that's where the adversarial attacks that come in because of security vulnerabilities, that's one of the risks that you're looking at. Bias and fairness, we talked about algorithmic and data having the bias itself. Privacy violations, are you exposing personal data? And sometimes you anonymize the data, but it can be re-identified. So those are privacy violations that we got to be looking out for. Regulatory and non-compliance, that's the data protection laws. If you go to Europe, there's a huge GDPR regulations that you have to watch out for, and you have to be in the confines of the compliance of those regulations. Intellectual property, the large language models and the data that was being accessed from newspapers and publications and patented other data that was available on the internet, but being used for a commercial reuse and product, that started now getting into an IP or intellectual property discussion, right? So you got to watch about those kind of issues. And the misuse of AI models. We've heard about misinformation and deep fakes and things like that, all coming because of use of AI for malicious reasons or purposes other than the original intent. Right. So let's kind of go into one other aspect of approaching AI solutions. And this is where I want to spend a couple of minutes to just talk about human involvement versus autonomy. And if you look at the boxes there, and I'm just going to highlight, there's something called human in the loop, human on the loop, and human out of the loop. So what do we mean by these things? So human in the loop is where the humans are actively involved in the decision-making process. But AI is assisting the human in making that decision. So I use the example of the radiologist with the X-ray. That's human in the loop. The AI is not making the decision; it's just supporting the individual making the decision. Or even in self-driving cars, we are saying, oh, the human is still in the loop, the hands are still on the steering wheel, and that's kind of a way of seeing that the AI is not taking over, right? Human on the loop is the humans oversee the system and can intervene if necessary. So it's not that they are always fully involved, but they can supervise it and they can handle the exceptions. So that way you have automated trading systems, but if you see something going all right, then you can say, stop, let's not do this, kind of put a halt on these things. Human out of the loop is where now it is totally autonomous, where the human is not even aware that things are happening. And some of these things are needed because of the speed in which you are to respond, whether it's different systems or high frequency trading algorithms, things like that happen really fast. the point I really wanted to make by putting up this slide is that we are always, movies and other sensational news always popularizes or presents to us the negative, and that's where you see human out of the loop as the example. But human out of the loop is not necessarily where we want to start, and some of the applications you may never want to be human out of the loop. So that's one of the things that we want to be really cognizant about. And in most organizations, that's where we want to kind of demystify this thing and lead people into a place where they're saying, let's look at how AI can help us where human is in the loop or is on the loop, but not yet go to out of the loop. By the way, there are situations, even in most business organizations, where you can submit to human out of the loop, but that's where you want to get the organization to a level of comfort where they feel, yes, our deployment is working as we need it to, and that's where you can make that transition to human out of the loop. Now, we are going to show you some of these things in actions, but let's really get to the meat of this presentation. And we're saying, let's talk about AI agents. So we said AI agents are autonomous systems that interact with their environment to gather data, make decisions, complete tasks that would otherwise need to be done by a human. So that's where we are saying that's the definition of how we look at AI agents. Autonomous. So we started with automation, talking about digitization and automation. Now we are talking about autonomy. Okay, what is the difference between AI agent and what we have currently in our environments, right? So if you look at the left-hand side in automation, we are looking at, let's say there's this virtual agent that we are using, which might be presented to you as a chatbot or a panel on some application or on a website. And you have deterministic workflows, which means you know ahead of the workflow executing what are the outcomes at each step, and you have provided for a mechanism to handle that outcome. Whether it is positive or negative, you are going to address that. And you have provided for that before the execution of the workflow. On the right-hand side, you see we are talking about agentic workflows, which is non-deterministic. And what we're talking about here is that the plan is intelligently created during runtime. And the AI agents are reasoning and generating the paths dynamically based on the user's intent and the business context. So you'd start with a problem to solve, and the AI agent, the entire flow of that, how it is done, it decides the plan, and then it uses the appropriate tools on the platform to execute, to achieve your goal. All right, so when we look at that, let's go back to some of the key things that we talked about. I mean, we originally talked about concepts, and here we are going to start talking about how we handle it on the platform. So we said AI agents need the access to right data. We already said about the data and how it has to be clean, and it cannot be poisoned, and etc. And your AI is only as good as your data. So that's good. But where is the data? The data is in many different systems that you have in your organization. Systems of record, your employee system of record, your finance system of record, your sales system of record, many different systems of record that are in your organization. But when you start looking at AI agents and the problem that you're trying to solve, the data is in many different places. So how do we get from these many different places to make it available to the AI agent? And that's where we are talking about the workflow data fabric. This is something we have in the platform where you collect the data from various different places. Data that's in ServiceNow, that's data is in your enterprise application repositories, and data that may be external to your organization that you might have to retrieve and supplement. You have to understand your data, and then you take action on your data using different things such as workflows, AI agents, various different things. So taking a very platform approach, you see that you have the applications on the top layer, and then you have AI, which is in the form of various different components that are available on the platform. The automation itself is the workflow layer, the analytics, the automation, the agentic part of it, and the data is brought from different parts of the organization in terms of systems. So this is kind of trying to bring it down to a point where we can understand how all of these interact, right? I just want to make a quick sidebar about the continuous investments in AI that you might see on this chart here. And you'll see that the ServiceNow AI journey has been, right from machine learning and natural language understanding, agent assist all across, and then we went to generative AI, and currently agentic AI is where we are. The real point to kind of take away from here is that whatever is the functionality, whatever is the specific technology that we introduce in the solution is in the platform, and it's actually incorporated, so you do not have to go out anywhere to do some processing or address the specific needs. You don't have to move data. You don't have to go out for an algorithm. Everything is happening inside the platform. And what this slide actually shows you is various different acquisitions for different kinds of technologies. But this is only for documentation because everything is actually inside the ServiceNow platform. It's a very expensive way of implementing acquisitions into your platform, but philosophically, this is the most appropriate way of doing it, right? So that's just to kind of make that statement so you don't have to wonder, where am I taking my data to do some processing? Everything is inside. I want to quickly get into the demo. So let me kind of pause here. I just stole this slide from marketing, excuse me, because it kind of gives you like everything that's going on the platform. That's the only reason I just like that slide. But the pillars for the business, we just quickly talked about it. The three main things that we're talking about: AI agents, which is agentic intelligence; data, which is the workflow data fabric; and the workflows. The thing to note about this is that it is purpose built for the business context. So we talked about hallucinations. The hallucinations and things that we're talking about is because you're going at data that is really not presented for a specific business purpose, and the algorithms or the solutions are not trained on your specific solution. And that's the data which is aware of the user and the context they're trying to use it in. And the workflows are actually using the components to within the confines of that specific narrow user domain so that you're getting quality results from this process, right? So when you look at the generative AI controller, people say, okay, so if you're going so narrow, then can we not use anything outside? So let me kind of pause here and mention that the Now LLM is the one, the Now large language model is the one that uses your data. And I'll put up a quick slide in a minute here to show you how that actually happens and how we're trying to isolate the customer's data. But you can also use the Gen AI controller to use other LLMs, which are not now ServiceNow provided, so that you can take advantage. The part of the Now LLM is that it is focused on your data, and it is the whole quality and the security and privacy, everything is something that ServiceNow assumes the responsibility for. But when you start going out, then you have to kind of look at that with those same set of characteristics and parameters to see that you're exerting the same amount of control, right? And then when you start looking at where do we use all of these things, and you see different personas on the left. So not only are we looking at Now LLM and your data, we're also looking at the personas who are going to use different aspects of the technology and providing it to them where it is most applicable to them, right? So you see end user, you see fulfiller, you see admins, you see AI practitioners, you see developers. I mean, we have started looking at, flow generation. And if you look at this AI search, there's task summarization, there's various different skills and capabilities that are being made available while still getting access to all different integrations to get data from the outside. Just a few more points I want to make before we show you the product in action, the AI agents in action. A quick point about the architecture. If you look at the left-hand side here, you see the requester, and then you have the customer instance in the regulated environment, and all of the, it goes through Now Assist through a Gen AI controller. It either goes through a Now LLM spoke, which is ServiceNow, or third party, goes through a sensitive data handler. I'll speak about this in a second here, and uses the service to provide the response to the requester, right? And if you look at the real data flows about this, it starts with the Now Assist request. It goes, and you're making sure that only the authorized user with the multi-factor authentication has secure data access. And there's a Now Assist out of the box prompt that is sent to the Gen AI controller with the different large language model spokes through a sensitive data handler, through the service, and comes back. On the way back, it's checking the response and also making sure that all the same privacy concerns and the cleanliness of the response is actually being applied on the way in and on the way out. So how are we mitigating some of these risks? So the way we are looking at these risks that we talked about earlier is customer data isolation. So all the customer data is stored in their own instance. It's never stored or commingled with other customers' data while processing the inferences on the request. And even the customers' prompts and responses are not available to other customers. So the customer's data is really totally isolated. Similarly, the AI processing infrastructure, even though it may be on shared infrastructure, the data is still only local and it stays within the boundaries. Same with security and compliance and guardrail management, which is this kind of the sensitive data handler part of it, where we are looking at offensiveness, security, sensitive topics. All of these you can actually make it your own by configuring that the guardrail management. Prompt monitoring, response monitoring, again, to see that nothing offensive and the prompts and the responses are protected right through the logs, right? And even the agent experience it masks all the offensive language and handles the sensitive topics. So the evolution of the AI growth, if you see from scripted workflows, we started with scripted workflows. We say we know all the outcomes. And then we also started looking at robotic process automation. Again, it was deterministic. The AI workflows, conversational workflows now started using other aspects of predictive intelligence, like things like AI ops, right? AI operations, where you could look at different kinds of incidents happening and you could predict and you could prepare for responding to different high priority incidents, etc. And now when you're looking at agentic workflows, it's an iterative, interactive approach, and you're using the reasoning model. How is this going to help you, right? How is this going to help you? The AI agents, if you see on the left-hand side, you see conversational intelligence, virtual agents, chatbots, search intelligence, predictive or task intelligence, document intelligence, where we have documents being scanned, and each time the document comes in, it's learning, and it's not just an OCR scanner, it's actually learning so that the next time it sees a similar document, it knows what to do with that and puts it in the repository. Similarly, analytics and operational intelligence, giving you better outcomes in your environment. I'm just 2 slides away from giving it to Mr. Steinke. So how and where do I find opportunities for AI agents? You say, yeah, this is all good. You have the technology, but I don't know where to find it in my environment. So we talked about looking for non-deterministic opportunities, which means where it's a dynamic decision making. There are dynamic conversational workflows, right? So like the virtual agent things that we talked about. But let's dig deeper. I say use the people. The people in your organization, the frontline people, are the ones that really know where you could use AI. But of course, you have to enable and make them part of this process. So I always say, if we used to conduct these workshops for deterministic workflows, and you try to capture a process on a whiteboard, and you have people who are telling you about various stages in the process, and you have some people saying, no, it doesn't work like that. Sometimes this happens, sometimes that happens. And so how do you kind of capture that? And then maybe you resign to a point where you say, you know what, we'll bring you here and then let you kind of give us some response, and then we'll move the workflow. That's probably a opportunity for agentic AI, because it will learn from what has happened before and it can generate a plan. Similarly, if you ask the approvers on why do they approve or how do they decide what they're approving, you probably get an insight into what is happening in that process, and you can capture that, and that's probably an opportunity. You can use the platform, because multiple integrations from the same workflow, you start looking at saying, why is this happening? So there's some data that's needed for some decision making. Let's kind of look at that. Process mining on the platform is another functionality that we have that allows you to look at workflows that have already taken place, and you can start looking at things where some things are bouncing back and forth between different groups in the environment or in the organization, and you can start looking at why it's taking that much time. So that's one of the other places where you can look at the shortcomings of the process and use that to identify opportunities. So sometimes it's time that it takes, sometimes it's the scale. Maybe you want to do the same thing, but at a high scale. So in the platform, there are all these pre-built domain specialized AI agents in different areas of the solutions. But I'm just going to go quickly and let Chris take over on showing you how the agentic workflow starts from the real problem you're trying to solve, which is the why. And you send the prompt into the next step, which is the AI agent orchestrator. And the orchestrator actually generates a plan. And that's the how part of it. And underneath that is the who. There might be different agents that are required to solve the problem, and the orchestrator is going to decide how that gets done. But the agents themselves use different tools, which may be skills, which may be workflows, which may be just information from knowledge base or other sources. So this same diagram that you see here is actually, for a specific use case, and this is the one that Chris is going to take us through. There are multiple agents that we look at here, but in the interest of time, Chris is going to use some appropriate representative samples. So that's enough of me talking. I think, Chris, why don't you take over and show the
All
folks?
right. Will do. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen as well. Oh, I gotta cut off your share first there.
Yeah, no, I'll take it off. Thank you. Did you get that?
No, it's still showing yours. I think you have to.
Oh, stop sharing.
All right. So I noticed there were a lot of questions in the chat about data and data retention. So I just want to take a moment and talk about that. So the way we approach this is actually kind of brilliant, and it takes care of a lot of the concerns that your enterprise architects and other people are going to have about generative AI. Now, normally, if you went to another vendor and said, "Hey, I want to create an answer bot or something like that," they would make you move a lot of your documents to a vectorized database, or they would want to take your documents and fine tune some generative AI model. And that sort of it concerns, well, if they're fine tuning it with that model, what if, that information gets used to train some other model? And how does that get all mixed in? So we solve that by not taking any of that data. We're not trying to create a fine-tuned model for each of our customers. The only time that your data leaves the instance is when we're sending it in the prompt, right? When we're sending it, hey, tell me how to solve this incident record. That's the only time that your information leaves the system. It goes to the GPUs where the model exists. Again, it's the same model for everybody. It's an basically sort of out of the box kind of a thing, not fine-tuned for customers. It does the processing there, and then it's not maintained. It's not like logged there or recorded there. Again, not maintaining it for any sort of training. and then the prompt is returned. So your data doesn't go to anywhere that it could be trained, that it could be mixed in with another customer's data. You know, in the commercial side, outside of public sector, we do have the opportunity where customers can participate in data sharing. It's totally turned off for public sector. No data sharing, no harvesting of your data for testing purposes. So just as clear as I could possibly be. And again, all of that happens within the security boundary of the GCC, of the NSC. It's within that security boundary. It's not reaching out to Azure out in the cloud somewhere. These are LLMs that we have are fully contained within our data center. So as clear as I can be, I really, again, I think it's a brilliant approach to it because it takes away a lot of those issues. So I just want to be clear. Hopefully I've answered all of those questions. Again, if you have any more, put them in the Q&A, put them in chat. If we're not able to get to everything, you know, feel free to reach out to us on, say, LinkedIn, or send your questions over. We're always happy to have it. What I want to show you now is an AI agent in action. And this is not a production system. So I got to qualify that first, right? This is just one of my demo hub. It's a micro instance. So it's not going to be as fast as maybe a production instance. But what we're going to get to see is an AI agent in action. And now here I am. I'm playing the role of a service desk agent. I'm dealing with a lot of different records that are coming in. In this case, these are automated alerts that are coming in. They're coming in. They're not having any categorization. There's no CI. I'm really not sure how to deal with this issue or how to address it. This is a perfect example for an AI agent to come in and really help me with my activities. Now, to activate the AI agents, you can do them in a couple different ways. You can set them up on triggers. So I could set up an AI agent. I'm just going to say, help me resolve this ticket. So you could set it up on triggers, like anytime a new ticket is created from an alert or something like that, from alert channel, then you activate the agent. You can invoke it like I'm doing here, all sorts of ways that you can trigger it. And you can see here, got my, don't know why it didn't do my helper. Hold on a second. I think let me just go to this different section to test it here. So with the incident helper that we're looking at, there we go. There is the use case and there is the agent. And what we were testing was the use case. For some reason, it didn't want to invoke from there, but I can invoke it from right here. So I'll say, help me resolve. And I will start my test. So what we're going to see here, this actually, I prefer this view because this is kind of more the action view. On the other view, you don't really get to see what's happening. Here you can see all the activities that are taking place. And this is really the fun section over here. These are the log files. So these AI agents, it's not just sort of a prompt that we have, or it's not just sort of something small. We're using something called the React engine. Where we're providing different information, different inputs to the LLM. We're having it react, we're having it do thoughts. And this is what kind of the fascinating part is as well, is that we've gotten to the point now where before we were sort of asking LLMs things, tell me this, tell me that. Now we're telling them how to think about something. So in the background, what you're not seeing is and again, if you want to Google the React engine and look it up, it's really fascinating stuff. But we're asking it to go through certain missions to come up with certain information. So it has a mission itself. So first we start with our incident categorizer. And the mission of the incident categorizer is to find a category, subcategory, and CI for our particular incident. It does that by activating a number of tools, which we've configured. And the tools, as you'll see in a minute, are kind of the secret sauce of our AI agents, allowing you to utilize any of the data or workflows that you already have within ServiceNow. So it comes up with the different category and subcategory, and I'll just say yes to move it forward. And you can see here, it then looks at the information in the ticket and it assigns it with a category, subcategory, and then the configuration item it was assigned, it couldn't find, but it assigned it based on the caller details. Next up, now this is sort of the cool part, this is the recommendations, because the second mission it has is to use our incident plan generator. So our incident plan generator is going to be creating the incident plan generator is going to be looking in similar knowledge articles. It's going to be looking in similar incidents. It's going to be researching information and details to help come up with a plan to solve this incident, right? So again, I'm that agent sitting at the service desk, that human agent. Normally it comes in, I have to spend all this time working with it. Instead, this is going to categorize it for me. Then it's going to look in the different available resources, find all that information for me, synthesize it, and bring it on back so that I can utilize it here. And as you can see, it's now come up with a information related to it. It's referenced the different sources. So these are the incidents that it's reviewed for me. And then here is the proposed plan that it's going to come up with. So it comes up with a great plan. Here's step by step how you solve this particular issue. I can then adjust this plan if I want to. And again, over here on the side, as
Chris, quick pause. I just want to make a point here. We kind of really spent some time thinking about the explainability of the AI. And here is where I think you're seeing the AI telling you what it's doing and what it's recommending. And then it's not just quietly doing something, right? So I just want to kind of bring that up. Thank you, Chris. Sorry to interrupt.
No, it's good. Yeah, and again, it's that dynamic thinking ability that makes it unique, because you can change the situation. It can deal with, instead of just one situation, it can react dynamically, because we're not giving it a set workflow. We're giving it a mission. We're giving it steps that we want it to take, where it does observations as it goes through those. It has thoughts, and it sort of progresses. Now here you can see it's given me a plan, and if I want to, I could edit it. I could say, you know what, this looks good, but skip step 7, right? So we're going to edit it. I'm going to tell it, don't put in step 7. It's able to understand that information, that input I've got. It's able to interpret that. If I wanted it to change it all, if I wanted to have it write the plan in Shakespearean sonnets, it actually will do that as well. It allows you again to manipulate that data, to interact with it as you would sort of with an LLM. And now you can see it's updated that information back to the work notes, and it's finished the conversation. So if we come back over here to our ticket, we can see that actually indeed the category, subcategory, the configuration item wasn't picked because it didn't have it, but the plan was then updated over to the activity. And this isn't something a human agent could do this, right? You can look through all your knowledge articles, you can look through similar incidents, you can research these things. But here, this really launches me ahead and sort of accelerates that initial logging and routing and understanding time that I would have to have. And I can update that plan so I can make it unique, or I could change it. But the idea is it helps me to move forward, and it's not, the other important thing is this plan isn't coming from sort of the internet, or it's not coming from the LLM model itself. Rather, it's coming from your information. It's really grounded in your data. So it's grounded in your knowledge articles. It's grounded in your incident resolutions and all those different aspects. So what does this look like if we take a look? So we can see here this incident helper. This is an actual, the functioning use case. And typically the way we organize these is you have your high-level use case, your outcome, and then you associate it with a series of agents. And so in this case, I have my incident plan generator and my incident categorizer. If I come down here into the incident categorizer, you'll be able to see the different instructions that we put in place in order to make it do its work, and also how we were able to, the tools we gave it. So when you're giving instructions to the AI, you just do simple language. You just tell it literally what you want to do, where you want the information put. You use different examples like provide the information back to the user and put in a recommended category and so on. But as you can see, it's just free text. So you're not really coding at all. It does automatically understand variables. It understands the tools where to slot those in. And so it is quite intelligent with how it responds. The tools, as I mentioned, this is sort of where the magic happens, is within the tools. Let me just close this here. Let me change here. I just wanted to go to my IT service management AI agents. I think this is what it was saying. So I just wanted to switch here so you could see in the tool section all the different options that we have. I guess it's read protected for some reason. All right, we'll come back to this later. I've added a number of tools already. And these are tools that can go ahead and do the different activities I wish to do. In this case, they're scripts, but you can add a variety of different tools. You can add tools that are subflows. You can add tools that are skills. You can add any API or any integration. If you've already got a orchestration or something, a PowerShell script that you're using to kick something off, you can turn that into a tool for your AI agent. And then you just direct it to make modifications, or you direct it you direct it to use that tool, and it will in accomplishing the mission that you've laid out for it. So again, this is the incident categorizer. I think the plan generator is, I think, a little more interesting, because again, this is sort of the holy grail, right? I want AI to tell me how to solve these issues, or at least help me solve these particular issues. Just going to switch back here so I can see it. And here again, we're defining a role for it, what we want it to do. And you don't have to write all this by yourself. We also have this Now Assist writer. So you can put in a description what it is that you want it to do, and it will create the role. It will create the AI instructions for you. Coming back down here, you can see I give it an explanation, incidents or records for tracking issues, just giving it some extra definitions and then telling it what to do. Find this information, fetch the relevant knowledge articles, look for similar incidents. And how does it do that? How does it know sort of what to do and how to do that? Well, it starts with the input. So it recognizes that the input is going to be an incident number. And then it runs these different tools. And so we have out of the box a flow action that pulls in information from similar records. And this is actually one of the out of the box flow actions that we're now providing. We're providing a number of these just sort of simple ways to get and manipulate data as part of the AI agents, as part of this Now Assist AI agents. Again, this is just one example. It defaults everything, the incident number, the data string type. You can have it run supervised, which means it would ask me before it ran the tool. So if you have a tool you don't necessarily want it to run all the time, you can always have it ask permission, or it can be autonomous where it goes. You can choose to have it display the output back to the user, in this case, in the test screen and such. And then you can also manipulate that output. So if you're just, you can have none if you don't want any changes to it. Concise is going to shorten it. Paraphrase sort of changes it from machine readable to more human generated or human readable text. And then verbose is going to sort of expand the text where it can. So you can manipulate the output as well. And then it brings that information back, and it just sort of automatically uses it in the next step of the instructions. And that's kind of the fascinating part, is that as you're building the agents, again, you don't need to you don't need to, again, know all the details. You don't need to know the particular scripts, the particular a lot of the code that you might have to do if you were trying to build this by hand. Instead, a lot of that information is presented to you, and by writing the instructions, the AI agent is going to know what to do.
Hey, Chris, I think you wanted to show the tool types, the drop down earlier.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, thank you. So the tools that we can add, we've got things like catalog items, virtual agent topics, flow actions, skills, Now Assist skills. Those are the unique capabilities that you can create yourselves using our Now Assist skill kit. You can do record operations, scripts, you can search, subflows, and we also now have the web search ability. So there's now a new agent tool that you can use that will actually search the web for you. That was a lot of customers have requested this capability, and you can integrate with different search providers and create a web search that you can add into the agent if you want to get it information or supplement it. And again, there's a lot of this stuff with these sort of AI agents where you could take some of the data from ServiceNow, you could put it somewhere else, or you could ingest it with another model. But it's really the tight integration with your workflows, with your data, because we're here on the platform, right? That's what we have, and that's what we're good at. So we're able to grab all that information. We're able to very quickly interweave it into the AI agents and build value and build some quality features and capabilities very quickly. Again, this is just scratching the surface with AI agents, and one simple example of an incident plan generator. We've got a loads and loads of additional AI agents, with many more coming out, at our soon with our Knowledge Conference. Really, with AI agents, typically it's when you have a complicated multi-step use case, something that's going to involve pulling information or aggregating it across many different data sources. So there's some situations where maybe a workflow is better, but in situations where an AI agent is appropriate, you can get a tremendous amount of value from them. So.
Hey, thank you, Chris. Thank you very much. That was really quick in the time that we have. I really like the way you hit on all the main points.
Yeah, no problem.
I'm quickly going to take the share back so we can wrap up. We are a few minutes from. So I just kind of borrowed this from Gartner, a quick AI maturity model on where you might be in your journey. Where is awareness, active, operational, systemic, or transformational, where you're thinking AI first and it's part of your, organizational DNA. But as we wrap up, I just want to hit 2 points. One is, you start with building an AI operating model. You want to kind of know what you're doing in the organization, how you're going to take on the AI solutions, and you want to source the ideas from the front line. You want to focus on the strategy that you have. You just don't want to just do a cool thing. You want to do a useful thing that is cool, right? So, and you want to provide governance and guiding principles, because we know the risks are many, even though the platform may do its part, but there are other things in the organization that also need to be addressed. And you do the technical assessment and the data readiness. And then you educate and enable your organization to use AI and to understand how best to use it. It doesn't always have to be unsupervised, autonomous in the automation. It can assist you in your process as well, right? So you got to build those skills across your organization in every domain. And finally, this is something that's overlooked, and this is why I put it here, saying it needs to bring value. Again, don't just go by, and I call it the shiny object syndrome, because that's the new shiny object. Let's not just take on anything unless we can establish value, because you have only a few chances to do it in the first time, and you want to do it right. So you want to kind of measure what value you're getting, and you ensure that you get return on an investment, right? And AI efforts should be collaborative and not compete with funds from other areas, right? So you want to make sure that it's part of a overall business solution or an organizational goal, and that's what it is facilitating. So focus on the data, identify the use cases, be cautious, but do start, take it on. And, there are many resources that I'm going to just point out to you on the left-hand side, some industry part of, papers that people have produced. It's good for CIOs to read them. It's good for, using to enable and educate your organizations. There are things from executive orders on trustworthy AI, and you can look at NIST papers about that. And on the right-hand side, you see so many different resources that we, as Customer Zero, we have been using a lot of what we have been showing you. And there are videos on how these can be used. I'm also going to show you one cool thing that our teams have put out there. It's the AI Agents Library. And this is, I'm showing you live as I log into this interface. It's publicly available. This shows you all the different solutions that we have, and what are some of the, let's take human resources. And these are some of the agentic workflows that have already been implemented in the platform. And these are some of the agents there. So you can go and take a look at all the different kind of things that have already been done, and reach out to your account teams and see how you can get deeper into looking at some of these things, right? So many different resources. And of course, ChatGPT, it would be wrong of me not to introduce that as a place where you can at least start your conversations, right? So thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, Nathan, who has been answering questions online. Thank you, Chris Steinke. Thank you, Sarah and Karasoft. Thank you all for attending this, and hopefully this was informative and you could take something away from this session. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'd like to thank all of our participants as well as our speakers for being with us today. We hope the information you received during this webinar has been helpful. If you have any further questions or would like to request more information, please feel free to reach out. Thank you again and have a great day.